Welcome back to the Breakthrough Code. I'm super excited to have this guest here who I'm getting to meet for the first time, but just already seeing his humor, his fun, his creativity. And we're going to dive in with him because he's been on the forefront of some amazing companies, and you all will have some great lessons to learn from him. Please welcome Ted Dhanik. Thank you for being here, Ted.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Yeah, really great to have you.
Excited.
So one of the things that was very intriguing to me is that you're on the forefront of a company called Myspace. You helped to develop Myspace and had a very senior leadership position. And I think it was vice president of fun.
Yeah, we have fun titles.
And marketing. Yeah. So before we even go into how it all started, explain to me vice president of fun. What was your job and marketing? But
Sure.
tell me what was that all about?
Well, essentially, I did everything that was fun, and I only wanted to do things that were fun, and it's consistent with today as well. But at the time, MySpace was popularized through pop culture, right? So our job at the time was to acquire exclusive content from studios and record labels and content producers before their content would be released to the public. So it was really fun to produce concerts and and films and TV and things like that, and have it published on MySpace sometime before it would actually come out to the rest of the world. So it was really working with the entertainers and the PR world and everything that was like really exciting in media at the time. And so the title really fit, it's like more of like, okay, it was really strategic marketing, because at the end of the day, it was like anything that was launching the brand across the world. And it ended up being more just, hey guys, his job is just only the fun stuff. He only really does the fun stuff, and this is Tom. And
people are jealous of you.
Yeah, no, I don't know, so it was a great time. It was so much fun, and it was defining. We, kind of paved some roads for the people that are around today as far as in this space. So
that was groundbreaking. And how did that company come about? I mean, I remember back in the day, it was on everybody's lips and it was the place you had to be. Now, again, I was telling you, I was a little bit too old for that, or maybe just not aware of it enough. But I know my kids and everybody was on that. How did that groundbreaking idea come about?
Essentially, not a lot of people know some of the things that I'm going to talk about right now, but I think it's I think it's important for everyone to know that my background, and I'm more of a fast follower, right? So like everything I've done, I see someone winning somewhere and they have some data and they've spent some money and they paved some roads. I'm going to use those roads. I'm not the guy paving roads, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people I'm around are very similar, so they see some opportunity, they take it a little bit further. MySpace was similar to that. A lot of people think MySpace was the first social network.
I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. So at the time MySpace was around, there was a company, before MySpace came out, there was a company called Friendster. So Friendster was really, truly the first social network. And it was based in Silicon Valley, and there was a guy named Jonathan Abrams who was the founder. And there are a lot of things that they did wrong at the time. They were limiting influencers or people from having more than 500 friends.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so there's, you guys might have heard of Tila Tequila, your audience, or I don't know. She was like one of the biggest people on MySpace at the time, right? So Tila Tequila was actually on Friendster.
Yeah.
And so basically Tom came up with this idea. Tom, MySpace, which is Tom Anderson, he's the founder of MySpace. And he said, hey, there's an opportunity here. These guys are messing up.
Yeah.
Let's just do this a little bit better and unrestrictive. And let's talk to Tila Tequila and everyone else that was on Friendster that was popular, that had, some significance and that were popular.
Those people.
We did. We went to them.
All the big influencers.
Say, hey guys, guess what? We're going to give you your own profiles. You're going to be able to put music on them. You can do all this really cool stuff that you can't do with Friendster right now because they're saying no.
Yeah.
And you could have as many friends as you want. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no way. This is crazy. You guys will be groundbreaking. You'll be the original OGs. So they jumped on. They jumped on, on MySpace. And so that's how we kind of started to grow, because they were growing it for us.
Yeah.
Essentially. Another thing that kind of is really important to understand about that era is dating sites were taboo. Okay, so at the time there was Match.com and a couple of dating sites. And if you were on a dating site, you're a weirdo, right? Or you're just looking for some like Motel 6 action or some really weird stuff, right? And this is true. I mean, this is what people thought at the time.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do in our mind was, and actually Tom talks about this a lot, is like, hey, let's make dating less taboo. So essentially MySpace was originally kind of the thought process was around it being a less taboo dating platform. Yeah. So, but it turned into kind of more of, like a social network. And I still meet people every day that said, hey, I met my wife on MySpace. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Or that's fantastic. Yeah. Depending on the time, of day or whatever, they like them or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the era. And that's why it became so significant, because people really did want dating sites, but they just, everyone else was, oh, this is not, this is not kosher. This is not cool.
Yeah.
So MySpace became more of a universal, more accepted dating platform.
Yeah.
But it really was a social network at the same time. So that's kind of how it happened.
I love that. Well, that's a great strategy. Like you said, you don't always have to be the road paver. You don't have to clear the path all the time. You can see someone else that's doing something, but you didn't just copy them. You did it better than they did. And that's why, like Friendster, I guess people have heard of. I've never heard of that much, but MySpace, obviously, we all heard of. So great strategy. And that's what we want to get today for everyone watching are what are things they can do to create breakthroughs. And so you just shared one with us.
Sure.
Now, what happened with MySpace? Because you guys had such a big audience. What was, and I don't know how long you were there. Did you stay through time there, or what eventually happened? Did someone else do the same thing you guys did to Friendster to you, or what happened?
I did time there.
Okay.
You did time there. Yeah, meaning it was kind of like a prison a little bit, like a jail cell a little bit after. No, but what happened was essentially about 18 months, a little bit less than 2 years after we launched it, we ended up selling it to News Corp, to Rupert Murdoch.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
your exit.
So we did, we had the exit then. And then what happened after that was, there's a lot of obfuscation of terms and a lot of things that happened shouldn't have happened.
Okay.
We were committed a bunch of cash, initially to grow the business, But as soon as Rupert Murdoch got access, and he publicly talks about this was the biggest mistake he had made in his career of destroying MySpace.
Yeah.
Basically what he tried to do was he tried to take an 18-month-old company that was, the biggest thing in the planet had ever seen. By the way, we had more traffic than Google for the first few years. It was insane. And try to lean it out, meaning, hey, let's use the private equity strategy and just cut the expenses and make this thing generate revenue.
Yeah.
Let's populate it with ads or saturate it, and then let's cut the expenses. What are the expenses? The engineers, hiring freezes, cutting engineers. Yeah. And we're growing faster than anything the planet has ever seen.
We need more engineers.
We need more engineers, right? Right. We need more engineers. Hey, let's not even worry about making money for the next 10 years. Yeah. Let's grow this thing. But that was not consistent with, with what he wanted to do. And we had to deal with him every day. He was in our office, and his wife, Wendy, at the time was. And, it was painful, And so we saw them destroy this thing that we had built. So there was some depression related to that after. So we left in 2008. On all of the earnouts and everything ended, we just left. And I actually left with blessing to start a business to help MySpace monetize better.
Oh.
That was the next company, basically. I saw
EBDR?
I was Engaged BDR. So essentially Engaged BDR's first client was MySpace. And the idea was to help it monetize better. It had 7 billion ads a day.
Yeah.
7 billion ads a day. It was insane. And they were going under monetized. So there were just so many ads there, and they're going for like a penny CPM, which is like per 1,000 impressions, 1 penny.
Wow.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
So my job was like, hey, let's figure out how to help MySpace make more money. And at the same time, we'll make money too, and solve a problem. And if we get MySpace figured out, there's 1,000 other publishers out there, like sites, that can use the same technology. And so we did that. And that's the next company. So
which you just had an exit with back in August. But even with that company, it was going well, and then all of a sudden you decided to change tactics. So talk about that, because this is really important. So we've got a couple things right now. one thing that everybody can do is see what other people are already doing that's succeeding,
Yeah.
and then upgrade it where you can add even more value, which you did. And then you had a company that was successful in Engage BDR, and then you changed tactics and talk about like, why did you do that when it was already going pretty doggone well?
Well, okay. So there's a lot of things you and I can relate with about. So you have a lot of background with Tony Robbins, and I read all of his work when I was really young. You know, my dad just kept giving me books, and him and Brian Tracy and just all these other guys, right? I could sell anything to anyone, you know? It's pretty crazy. And so like I get all of my, and this is so important for people to understand, all of my ideas, they don't come from me. They come from the people around me.
Yeah.
So you better be happy with, you know, becoming those people, because you're going to become those people, right? Yeah. So everything that I've done in business too has come from ideas from people around me. You know, like I decided to surround myself with people that are much smarter than me, and I'm always going to be the smallest person in the room by, you know, by intention, you know? Yeah. And so all these ideas, they come from these other people. And I decided to change gears. The business was going really well. And initially we started Engage BDR as a performance marketing business, as a direct response company, essentially digital, online. So it's kind of like, you know, Joe Francis out there selling Girls Gone Wild for years, and he was doing the late night spots, right? And stuff like that. So, you know, we said, hey, we could do that online, but not Girls Gone Wild.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're taking this in a different direction than the breakthrough code, right?
Right. Yeah. So essentially taking that philosophy, and we're doing, you know, really well in performance marketing. And then we had, you know, we had the new concept and idea of like, hey, let's go full stream in this new area called programmatic advertising, which is all automated and digital, and it's all brands. And so we became one of the pioneers. 2011, we were one of the first companies to launch that. Now the entire ad industry is on that spec. Entire ad industry. We were one of the first 5 guys to do it.
Wow.
So yeah, ideas came from people around me, and we flipped, and we adapted fast, and we ran the other 180 degrees, and we crushed it in that direction. And then I had some people around me that were, you know, like super smart, that said, hey, let's start acquiring things, you know, and you read that LA Times article about the $100 million acquisition spree. We're acquiring a bunch of companies with no cash. So it was a lot of fun, you know, so we ended up figuring out how to do that.
How were you doing
for equity? Yeah. Okay. So I started acquiring businesses.
People wanted to be part of what you were doing, though.
We sold a great dream, you know, and that's one of the things I'm good at.
Yeah.
You know, so
you know, but I remember in the article it said that you're not disclosing where the cash is coming from because it was equity, which was so smart. You didn't have to. You didn't have to bring in investors. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. So that was great. And so I kept out investors for as long as I could.
Yeah.
Engage BDR was fully bootstrapped until the IPO, never raised $1 of debt or equity or nothing, you know, and it did hundreds of millions in revenue before we even raised $1 of any outside capital. And we acquired businesses without any cash too. So just kept doing that, just acquiring pieces that we were missing. Like, hey, how long would it take to build this and get all these customers? Oh, it'd take too long. Why don't you just acquire these guys? They already have it. And let's put them in the mix, you know?
Yeah.
So that worked out pretty well.
When you were acquiring companies, what were you looking for? Like one of the ones I read about was, I think, a company that had videos of emerging musicians or something like that. Like, what's your way of thinking? So, and where it can apply to everybody, like not just for your space, but how do you look at a company and go, we need this, or no, that's not going to be a good fit? Like, what's your way of assessing that?
So that company that you were talking about was basically, the idea was, the company was founded by one of the people that created Myspace music.
Oh, so you already knew the person.
So I worked with her for a really long time.
Okay, cool.
So,
and that's important. Like, you knew the leadership there. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really critical. And basically her idea was to universalize a video resume for musicians.
Yeah.
So create this thing, and it's just, you know, like a small video reel.
Yeah.
But it was just called a Divio, basically, and make that universal. And the way that I felt that would be a really good fit for us was they had video traffic.
Yeah.
Meaning they had a lot of users watching videos online. Their platform had a lot of, like a bigger audience. and I had advertisers that needed to market on video.
Right.
So we were putting our video pre-rolls and our ads on those pieces. So
cool.
it was direct synergy, and it made sense for us. How quickly could I monetize it? Essentially,
things you look at.
That's the critical part, for us. And if we're not worried about monetization now, later on, how would we be able to monetize it? And what does it have now? I mean, there's so many things to look at. But
I love that, because you had a company that was helping people place ads on other sites, right? But now you started acquiring sites where you already had content, you already had viewership, and you had advertisers that wanted more opportunities to do that. And so it was a natural acquisition.
Absolutely. We want to collapse the value chain whenever and wherever we can.
Yeah.
And what that really meant in this situation was we were paying publishers to put our ads on there.
Yeah.
Now, hey, we just want to acquire publishers and be the publishers now. So that was the idea. So like we'd own one side end to end, essentially. That was the idea, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So how do you spark that creativity to even see something like that? And I know you're going to give a lot of credit to everyone else, but even Tony Robbins told me, he's still a good friend. He said that, he said, look, I don't come up with all these ideas. He said, I'm a really good synthesizer, kind of like what you're talking about. Like I can see this and see that and see this, and now put it together in a way that's not super complicated, right? That makes it easier for people to take action with. How do you spark your creativity? Because maybe that'll help other people that go, maybe I'm not creative. Like, how can I be more like Ted?
What inspires me is listening to and watching other people win and talking about their wins. I really need that I need that energy around me all the time.
Some people are jealous of that. You're not jealous of that. That inspires you.
I'm probably one of the most coachable people you'll meet.
Yeah.
I've been this way since I was, my dad instilled this in me since I was very young.
Yeah, great dad.
We will never, there's always going to be another analogy is like, you could be ultra successful, whatever. You roll up at a stoplight in LA and there's a guy next to you, 10 times what you've done.
Yeah.
And that's inspiration, it's nothing but inspiration. So, essentially that is, I think watching the wins, hearing about them, listening to what people are doing, like really kind of putting the stuff together and saying, hey, that's not out of reach.
Yeah.
It's been, what Tony always talked about was if it's been done, it can be replicated, right?
Right.
So that's essentially how I'm thinking all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, when I was younger, because I grew up in a family without much money, and everyone seemed to have so much more, I was jealous. And then eventually I learned that, that energy of jealousy is not super productive, right? I mean, it might drive you to work a little harder, but you're always coming from lack. And so I turned that energy of jealousy into prosperity, right? Where it's just like, hey, just like you're saying, like, wow, look at what they did. That just proves I can do it too. Like, what can I learn from them? So that's so beautiful. You talk about teams and I think you, again, you're humble with it. You say, I just follow people or get around people and they have great ideas, but I know you are the leader that helps to integrate those ideas and make it happen. What does it take to be able to do that? Because we can all read books. We can all, watch people. We can listen to podcasts. We can learn, but some people don't put it into action, and then a few do, right? And those are the few like you that reap the big rewards. How can, and you had a little bit of an advantage. You had a dad that really coached you well, right? A lot of us didn't have that. We had to learn on our own. But how do we have the courage to put ideas into action? Because even though it's been done before, like even when you started MySpace with your team, it was a risk, right? I mean, there's no guarantee you're going to be successful, but you had the courage, you had the wherewithal, you had the grit, you made it big. How do people do that?
I think for me, I'm probably a little bit different because I'm heavy risk forward. I'm really risky,
Me too. Yeah,
I'm a CEO, so I'm taking risks that other people won't take, and my risks are very calculated too. And I decide instantly. I don't think about stuff for too long. I just make the decision and I just do it. And it's based on downside management, right?
Yeah.
Downside. What does my downside look like?
Yeah.
How much am I going to potentially lose? And that's all I'm looking at. And potentially, has it been done?
Yeah.
Do I know somebody near me who's
Yeah.
done it? And if I do, can I call them, right? Can I figure out a way to talk to them? Can I reach them through a network or through somebody in my network somehow? They've done it. And what value can I bring them which will help them teach me how to do what they have already done? You know, like it's basically attracting these valuable people. But yeah, for me, it's just managing the risk through, you know, your downside, you know, understanding the downside and figuring that out.
And understanding the downside, but also knowing that even if you go big and it fails, you're going to be okay, right? You know, you can come back. Like you've got enough self-esteem that you're not going to, you know, live with a big F on your forehead. You're not going to tattoo a big, you know, failure on your forehead. And they're great learning experiences. I mean, no one succeeds all the time, but if you're not willing to take that risk, you're not even give you a chance to succeed.
You know, before Engaged BDR went public, there was another company we took public, you know, and I talk about this stuff all the time because I feel that what you learn, you know, I made a lot of mistakes with Engaged BDR going public too, lots of them, you know. What I have now is an understanding of what never to do again, you know, like what not to do.
Right.
That doesn't mean I'm never going to take a company public again. There are very few people on this planet that have done that. Yeah. I'm one of the few. Yeah. And I can do it better next time, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, I don't consider it a failure at all. It was a these are all learning experiences. The first company was, you know, we got cheated out of a bunch of stuff. We took it public in Canada. I have you know, like a really sore spot about Canadian public vehicles and stuff like that. But, you know, that didn't go so well, but I learned a lot from it and I leveraged it for the next one, you know, it's kind of like that. So I don't even consider the failure is not even in my vocabulary. Yeah. It's all part of your experience. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the more you've tried, the more valuable you are to the next person, the person sitting next to you. Yeah. And something you said that's really important, you know, I tell my kids, I said, never try to be two things, the smartest person in the room or the coolest person in the room. Because then you're just trying to put on a show, right? Sure. And everyone knows it. And like you said, there's someone usually that's always going to be smarter than you. I know there's every room I'm in, I know I'm not the smartest person there. Yeah. And I don't even try to be. I try to be the friendliest. I try to be the most helpful. I try to be the most encouraging. I mean, things that I can, you know, really do well. And not to say I'm not smart, but that's not the game I'm trying to play. And when you do that, you get so much more help from people. I remember coaching somebody that was really nervous because he was going to meet, I think, President Obama or something like that, you know, and have a one-on-one. And he's like, what do I say? And I said, well, don't try and impress him. Try to be impressed by him. Like, ask him questions and tell him something that he did that you really admire, right? And talk to us about, because I call it in the Breakthrough Code, one of the things we talk about, one of the many habits is create your network of empowerment. We don't do anything or not much on our own. Like, I don't care who you look at. Whoever you're looking at, you're admiring, that person had help. They had emotional support. They had ideas. They had mentorship. Talk to us why that's so critical, not only for you, but for everyone listening. I think it's so critical to understand that this is the basis of this, and everyone needs to really get this drilled in their heads. The coolest and the smartest people in the room are highly insecure. So all of that comes from insecurity. Yeah. So it's, you know, there's no reason for anyone to feel that way. You know, it's just kind of crazy. So when you actually meet the smartest people, forget about cool, because I don't know about that. Yeah. The actual smartest people are always going to be the most coachable people, and they're super open to ideas and concepts, and they're just willing to add value wherever they can. You know, that's the whole thing. It's like, I want to add as much value as possible to every friendship, relationship, customer, client, whatever, whenever possible, without expecting anything in return.
Exactly.
That's just my mantra. That's just how I am.
Yeah, me too.
You could have somebody over here in the studio who's talking about something, and I could just add as much value as I want, like as I can, and I don't want anything in return. That's the difference. A lot of people want stuff in return.
They want it right away too.
They want it right away too. But they need to understand that the universe will pay it forward, right? Yeah. Because all of us are paying it forward. The reason why I'm this way is because I was mentored by some of the smartest people I've ever met, who were also mentored by some smart people. Yeah. But these people picked me up because I was coachable, and they felt that I was worthy of the effort that they're putting into me because they knew that I would execute and they knew that whatever they said to me, I would absorb because I was ultra present.
Yeah.
Being present is critical. I mean, that's like the most important thing, but that shows like through and through to the people that really matter to you, the people that you want to be mentoring you, you know? So everything happens with other people. Nothing happens by yourself.
Right.
It just doesn't. You can't learn anything that's already been done without somebody teaching you how to do it.
Right.
Or you got to read about it, but there's only so much you can read. Right.
Yeah.
So, it really is so much easier when you have a network of like really, really smart people who share these, fundamental, baseline qualities. Coachable, no arrogance, nobody has an ego, happy to add value wherever they can. Like this is it's kind of like the dream team, right? Well, I've created that here in LA. So I have a group of like 45 guys here in LA that, you know, we have these dinners every week and like 12 guys in dinners, but everyone, you know, it's hard, but you know, that's the whole premise is basically my whole life. I want to go through being the smallest person in the room, but always absorbing and learning from the people. So it's all about the other people.
And the one adding the most value too. So, and a great way to do that too is not just, oh, that person's important, let me be nice to them, let me compliment them. That's great. That's fine. And without expecting anything back. But, you know, go to the lowest person that, you know, like on an elevator, you know, the person that's got the broom in their hand. How's your day today, right? You know, big day today. Let's go. Let's have some fun today. Like, you know, that's something I learned from my grandfather. My grandfather was a wise mentor. My dad passed away when I was really young, but my grandfather was really not my father, but he was very influential on me. And I remember being in his, he was. My mom never accepted any money from him because he was really proud, so we didn't have a lot of money. But I would go visit him and my grandmother, and they lived in this, you know, they moved from their home because they were older, and they had this super luxury apartment with, you know, doormen. But you know, when the doorman loved my grandfather because, you know, he would know their names and their families, and he would tip, you know, very generously, and he really cared about them. And so, you know, where other people are like, oh, that's just a doorman, right? You don't have to worry about that person. They're not as good as us. My grandfather was, he loved everybody. Everyone was his equal. And I think when we do that, like the universe notices even more.
Well, I think it's just strength and character, right? So like if I'm at a dinner and I just met some people, this is a classic. How does this person treat the wait staff? Right? And that tells you a lot about them. It tells you so much, you know, and it's really important. And that is really you know, how you can start gauging emotional intelligence of other people, because that's so important. That's also another qualifier. People you want to be around. You want to be around people that are emotionally intelligent, that get it. You know, because it's rare. Surprisingly, it's truly rare. A lot of people, you know, they're so focused on themselves that they overlook the basic signs and the signals that other people are providing, you know, to understand them better. So
I love it. Yeah. One of my friends that I'm in a leadership group with, Transformational Leadership Council, is David Wagner, who owns some Aveda franchises, and he became like a celebrity haircutter. And he had this one lady that, you know, called and said, you know, could she make a special appointment? And she would come like every month, but this wasn't, you know, the regular time. And he said, you know, sure, you know, it's not your regular time, you know, come on in. And you know, he had plenty of customers and probably some more famous ones, but he just, you know, all right, let's make your day today. And just, you know, was cutting her hair and complimenting her and feeling so good. And I'm getting a little choked up even recalling the story, but she said, you know, I came in here because I was going to commit suicide today. But she said, you treated me so well. You made me feel so good. I'm not going to do that. And he wrote a book called Be a Daymaker, like be a daymaker for whoever you run into. And the interesting thing is, like, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not saying do it because you will get paid off, you know, 20 times, right? I don't even think about that. But conversations I've had with people that then have turned into extremely lucrative business opportunities without me even trying to do that.
Yeah.
I have so many of those. I know you
Yeah.
probably had so many of those too.
It's just about being, just about having this aura of good energy around you.
It's energy. You're
And
imparting energy.
You're smiling, you're happy, you're confident, you're whole, right?
Yeah.
And that comes with, and it comes with these things, which are, you're nice to everyone around you. I mean, it's just natural, you're not pushing, you're not looking for anything in return. You're not, all of this is just, you're fine, you're great, and you can be better by being better, so. Yeah.
And I know you're a very spiritual person too, and just it puts you in a more prosperous place when you're giving out great energy and people want to be around you.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a lot of your success. People want to be around you. They love your energy. They want to be part of your team, and you've attracted a lot of people that have helped you get to where you are.
There's a lot of work that I've been focused on and working on myself for the past like 6-7 years or so. I'm 47. I know you can't believe it, but I'm finally 47.
You look very young. Yeah, I'm not sure he's 47. Let's check his age.
I have good doctors. I've always wanted to say that, but I don't actually have doctors. But I grew up Hindu, so my parents are Hindu and they're practicing. They're not like hardcore Hindu, which is Hindu's very tolerant and very calm. It's like Buddhism. Buddha was a Hindu prince. And and so there's meditation and mantras and all this stuff happening while I was growing up and stuff. And I didn't understand it so much. It was just kind of built into me. And then I discovered TM, Transcendental Meditation. And that took over, and that really changed a lot in me.
Taking TM too,
yeah, I love it. And it's helped me realize that there's a lot of work that we need to do internally with ourselves, right? And when you do that work, and you have to do the work, without the work, there's no shortcuts. Really isn't. Doing that work changes everything. Helps you become so much more emotionally intelligent too. And, you're just more connected with everyone, and you just feel at peace, and just feel more whole, I think that connection that we're looking for in the universe is really with ourselves. It truly is.
No, I'm glad you said we have to do the work, because I thought, growing up without any money, that one day I'm going to make so much money. I'm done, right? Life is just, a piece of cake. And I remember I got to a point, and I don't know how old I was, but maybe my son was just a baby. It was a while ago, right? But, I was maybe 30 something, early 30s. And I'm like, I made a bunch of money. And so I'm like, all right, here you go. Like, life's easy now. And we went to watch a movie at IMAX, one of those, it was about dolphins, I think. And so we had our son, he was like a year old. My daughter was 3 or 4, and we watched the movie, and the parking lot was really crowded. So when we drove up, I told my wife, hey, go in and get us some seats. I'll park the car. So they didn't know where we had parked. I was the only one who knew we parked. So we leave the movie, cool movie, and my son's asleep. So I'm carrying him, and I hear my wife tell my daughter, we're a pretty competitive family, let's beat dad to the car, right? And then I overheard them, like they whispered it. So I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm thinking in my mind. So all of a sudden they were walking, and they start running, but I had the advantage because I knew where the car was. And so my son woke up because I tucked him under my arm like a football, and I'm running, and he's cheering me on, go dad. And I go between 2 cars to try and be the first one to our car. And I forgot about those little parking things that, and so literally I hit it, and I start flying through the air with my son. And the only thing I could think of was protecting him. So somehow I turned in the air, and I smashed my face right into the fender of our car. My teeth went through my lip. And then my daughter, is 3 or 4 or something, she walks up to me and looks down, I'm bleeding. She goes, why'd you do that, Dad? Like I did it on purpose, because kids think you're perfect. And then I just realized, hey, like, you're always going to have some challenge, something you're going to need to work on, right? It's never going to be this quote unquote perfect. Even my book is called Living a Life, or the subtitle, Living a Life Without Limits, but it doesn't mean everything's perfect. It means where you find a limit, you go to work. Be a detective. What's that belief system? What's that old story? I've got to get it out. And so I love that you address that. And I love that you're working on that. At 47, I'm 62. I'm working on it. I think we will work on it till we take our last breath if we're truly evolving.
It's ongoing. There's no like end result. I mean,
Right.
it's just constant. It's
Yeah.
part of our lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So I've compartmentalized my life into so many different pockets, and my definition of balance is very different than most people. It's actually I compartmentalize my life in a lot of different areas like fitness and health, and then there's work in small category, and then I've got like my spiritual stuff and my family and friends, all the stuff that defines me, and work does not define me.
Yeah.
And I have daily wins in all those categories, and all those daily wins improve when I work on myself.
Yeah.
And then the work eventually work is fine and it gets better, but the work, the business and all that stuff does not define me, and it does not. And those are offset with my wins because I'm losing or winning or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so that creates a pretty nice energy spectrum for people around me too, because I have constant wins to talk about. So that's like, attracting people that you want to be like, it's like.
You probably like me, you hang out with people that want to grow. They want to learn. They don't think they're it, right?
Yeah.
They know that, hey, they're really successful. Like I hang out with incredibly successful people. But there's some incredibly successful people that probably I wouldn't want to hang out with, right? I really choose, like, do they have a good heart, right?
Yeah.
Do they really care? Do they treat other people well? Do they want to help make the world a better place? And do they want to grow? Do they want to become that even next version of who they could be?
Yeah, I think it's so critical that you watch out for all that stuff, that kind of energy. You got to, because you'll end up becoming those people, like people you're around. You'll adopt the traits that you don't want, and
you can get seduced. Just because someone makes a lot of money doesn't mean they're going to be the best mentor or even friend. Like, you can get drawn down in some dark places if you don't really set some standards of who you're going to hang out with. Yeah. Same thing on the low end, like, old friends that have held you back. Like, you can still love them, but you probably should spend a little less time with them.
I wrote a quote about this, and it went viral a couple years ago, and it's basically, you're not disloyal to these friends that you've had, legacy friends, that you've had forever. You're not disloyal to them because you're spending less time with them, because it's just that you're focused on achieving something and winning and life, and so maybe they don't fit the thesis of your next chapter. They're still great people. It doesn't mean that they're not good people. They're just good, but they just don't fit the path at the moment. You can still be friends with them. Just don't need to be around them.
That's true. They helped you to get maybe where you are now, but they're not necessarily the people to hang out with energetically or whatever for this next version of yourself. That's why we're always meeting new people and bringing new people into our life. That's healthy. That's not a bad thing. And still, we can love them and we can help them out whenever we can, right? But it's just a different way of thinking.
You got to watch out for energy vampires too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
I have a tech venture in stealth. Now it's also digital advertising.
About it. Just kidding.
Yeah, right. It's it's a stealth mode right now. It'll be launched publicly in the next few months. So we've been working on that for some time, and just really focused on myself, and we're working on a book soon coming up, or a couple.
Okay.
And I think it'll be exciting. More speaking stuff. Just finished 100 Million Mastermind.
Okay, cool.
I was talking about public capital, and private capital raising. It went pretty well, and so do a lot more of that stuff this year.
Yeah. Well, any help I can give you on that, let me know.
Awesome.
And what's your long-term vision for your impact on the planet and humanity?
It's tricky because I was listening to your previous guests talk about this, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I think that I feel that, with that pause that happened, it kind of reset my thinking, I felt like a lot of damage has been done that's irreversible, but now I'm starting to think a little differently, about that. I feel that with, there's got to be a way to do what we just did, but in perpetuity, somehow. So, and I think that can make some change.
And how do you see technology integrating with humanity? Ray Kurzweil, who wrote, The Age of Spiritual Machines and Singularity, says that technology and humanity are growing, and you see it, right? Chat GPT, we're talking about another guy.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
you see it, merging more and more. And I think that's just the beginning. I mean, the way it will, Elon Musk is talking about Neuralink and planting chips and brains where now all of a sudden I can speak Spanish fluently, which would be pretty cool. How do you see that happening? You're in the tech world. What's your vision for that?
I feel like things are moving, but not as fast as everyone is afraid of, right?
Okay.
And so I think that people are really
Should we be afraid of it?
I think that there are things that are happening right now that we don't need to be afraid of, right?
Okay.
And the whole Neuralink thing, that's just another world of,
Mhm.
that's another discussion, and it's an
Yeah.
entire episode on just that. But from what we're seeing right now, the hot topics have been ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
I feel it's very helpful,
Yeah.
and it's a content engine essentially, right?
Right.
So we're using it for a variety of different things. You could reuse it to write sales copy,
Yeah. It's great sales copy. It does.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
tested it for that too.
Yeah, it's funny, but it won't. You gotta like edit it, heavily
Yeah,
and
for
stuff.
sure.
But it's very helpful. It's gonna put a lot. And I've been saying this in other interviews. I feel that it's going to put a lot of people out of business,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to create a lot of new businesses at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's exciting new change. And I think that's going to help us a lot. It's going to help all of us. Yeah. So I think from that standpoint, I think it's good, and there's nothing to be afraid of yet. But there's a lot of stuff going on that in the future, I think we're about 25 years away from, that could make change. And if you let AI make decisions that are critical, then we're really concerned, at that point.
Mhm.
But if we're just leveraging it for other things, I think it could be good. And that's just AI, but technology in general, I feel there's a lot improving. I mean, just for example, in the advertising space alone, advertising is now curated based on your buying behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's been that way for a few years now, right? So,
Yeah.
like a lot of people have the arguments like, hey, I don't want, any of my personal information shared with the advertisers or anything like that. It's like, hey, do you want to see, you're like, you're into football, you're into cars, things like that. Do you want to see like ads for like, bikinis and like, stuff like that? It's totally irrelevant, to you, it has no idea who you are. Just showing you random ads,
Yeah.
or do you want to see stuff that is relevant to you, So there's a big argument about that and privacy, but I feel like it's going in the right direction, or it was, as far as curated content.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Ted, thanks so much for being here. You've been really insightful, and you helped a lot of people. Thanks a lot for being with us. And thank you all for listening and being with us today.